Okay, I'm showing 9 o'clock. Let me say good morning to everyone. This is it's 9 o'clock on Wednesday, May the 3rd, 2023. I'm Mayor Sylvester Turner. I'm calling this meeting of the Houston City Council to order. This is how we're going to proceed this morning. We're going to start off with a report by Chief Fenner and his team. Then we're going to go to the agenda, do miscellaneous, and then we'll take up appointments immediately thereafter, okay? And then we'll move from there. But I know, Chief, that there's a lot planned for today. National Police Week, so a lot of activities. So I wanted to give you as much time as possible to kind of go through the numbers and the analysis and where we are. I do think it's very important for people to continue to hear where we are, whether or not crime is going up, whether or not crime is going down. Especially over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of talk about crime everywhere, not just in the city, but across the country. And I think it's important to keep providing people with the information, good, bad, or indifferent. So why don't we get started? And Chief Fenner, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, council members. It's always an honor to come before our great council. Talk about it all around the nation, the support we have, how we have a mayor that's tough and smart on crime, and how we have council members who are tough and smart on crime, and it means so much. It is Police Week, and we do have the prayer at 10 o'clock, but I also want to acknowledge and let people know and ask that they come out and participate Friday evening, and we'll send out the exact time. That's our memorial ceremony. 121 officers in the history of our agency has paid the ultimate price, and we go out and honor them every year, and we'll do that Friday night, and a lot of the family members are there, so we want to support that. But we're here to present the first quarter report on crime, and I want to say this too. I really want to applaud the great work of our men and women in uniform and our support staff. Because all that we're up against, and you'll see just here shortly when we go over these numbers, I want to commend them. And not only the Houston police officers, everybody in our region, you'll see the local, the state, the federal partnerships that we have, and also the decisions that our citizens are making. Better decisions, because it takes us all to reduce crime, and that's what you see that's happening here in the city. We'll move to the first slide. During the first quarter, thanks again for One Safe Houston. Next slide, please. Now, thank you. During the first quarter, we had a few events. The rodeo, Final Four, everything went exceptional. And I just want to thank everybody that was involved in that. Recruiting. Our academy classes are full. Mayor, Council, I want to thank you for giving a $10,000 initiative, signing initiative to cadets coming in. That's helping. We'll continue to work hard and get those academy classes full. Next slide, because we'll talk about One Safe Houston real quick. Again, everybody knows we had a lot of conversation about it. But Mayor, at the beginning of last year, and council members, you know what the crime numbers were. And you instituted One Safe Houston. And I won't go down every bullet point on there because we've talked about it, but it's a collaborative effort where we touch on behavioral health, domestic violence, buy gun back, all of those things, and getting our citizens and everybody involved in fighting crime, and we've seen the dividends. I know we have a gun buyback scheduled for sometime this summer. We'll stay on that, but next slide. Again, the hard work and the numbers that you're about to see is a collaborative effort. I do want to touch on really quickly. You've seen over the past few months, I think, in my opinion, more coordination and more communication with our criminal justice system here in Harris County. And I've talked about that. When you have the judges talking more and the DAs talking more and the police officers are talking, solution-based. So that's what you're seeing. But also I want to give some thanks to our U.S. Attorney's Office, Southern District. and those prosecutors who have come into our area. When we put people in federal institutions and bring federal charges on them, it sends a message to a lot of criminals in our city, and that's what's happening. Next slide. Let's get into the stats. These stats on this page, April is included. There will not be the official stats. They still have to go through staff review. Once Assistant Chief Martin goes over the district stats, and every council member, those are the first quarter, and that goes from January to March. But these are, April is included. I also want to just pause, and you don't see her up here, but Melissa Commons is our data governance and planning deputy director. Please stand if you can, if you don't mind, right quick. I want to thank you for the hard work. Sometimes you don't see the uniform, but that is a deputy director with our agency, and they work extremely hard. And I want to thank her for crunching numbers and keeping us going and keeping us informed. Also, my team, my executive team is behind me. I want to thank each and every one of them for the hard work that they do. So let's get into the numbers right quick. We had 2 homicides last night, and I know the news is reporting on it, so I want to include those. So if you add those numbers, we're at 111. Instead of 28%, that drops us to 27% in murders. Rape is down 6%. Robbery is down 10%. Aggravated assault is down 12%. Kidnapping is down 19%. Human trafficking is down 23%. Overall violent crime in our city is down 12%. If you look at property crimes, the auto theft is up 14%. Burglary is up 2%. Theft is down 10%. Nonviolent crime overall is down 5%. Grand total of all crime in our city is down 6%. And I want to say this before I turn it over to Chief Martin. When I look at the stats and I look at each district, each council member, overall crime is down, and that is to be commended. Now, I want to say something. We understand, just like in any competition, this is just the first quarter. And I ask that we continue to get support from everybody around in this room and also our citizens. We still have to make smart decisions. We still have to help our neighbors out. Summer is coming, and we got to group together even stronger, because I intend, and my focus and my goal, and this police department and everybody in the criminal justice system, is to continue to drive those numbers down. But when I see in each council member's district, those numbers are down, that's to be celebrated for a quick moment. But we're going to still be, and we're still going to continue to work hard in this city. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Commander, Chief Martin.
And Chief Martin, before you move forward, I just want to, again, emphasize that on the violent crime category, Chief, I just want to make sure that we all got it and understand it. The murders in the city of Houston, at least from January through the end of April, that homicides are down 27%.
27%.
Okay. All right then, Chief Martin.
All right. Thank you all very much for having us here. Again, to reiterate what the Chief said, we appreciate all of y'all's efforts on our behalf. A lot of what we do couldn't happen without the support that we get. Some of the recent investment in technology has really benefited us, and so we really appreciate that. And also to reiterate that we could not do anything that we do, and none of these numbers would be possible without the people that live in this city. There's more than 2.3 million people in this city, and without their support and without their efforts to help keep the city safe, the 5,000 of us could not do it. All right, let me get into the council district numbers. As the Chief said, the overall numbers for the city, that was 4 months. That was the month of April included. The council district numbers are only January through March. That is the first quarter of the year. That's what we have here in the breakdown. So if you look at the numbers added up, they're not going to equal what was on that total page, because that's 4 months. This is 3 months. But for each district, there's a 3-month breakdown. So that will be the one difference. I'm going to use Council District A to go over a couple of different generalities here. You'll notice a couple of, matter of fact, next slide, please, to get the council district numbers up. Next slide, please. One more. Go to District A. Okay. If you look, there's a couple of red numbers on here. We saw all green on the citywide numbers, but when you break it down district by district, the numbers become smaller and we see some different percentage changes. The one thing you're going to see very consistently in some districts throughout the city and is going to be a number, a red number next to the rape category and a red number next to the auto theft category, pretty consistently in some of our districts. I want to point out that thankfully, for the benefit of our citizens, the rape category is smaller than a lot of our violent crime. Every single one of those victims is extraordinarily important to us. It's something we put extreme amount of effort into. Murders, rapes, anything that is violent and affects our citizens, we take with utmost seriousness. So we went and looked at the rape numbers before we came in here today. I had our special victims unit look at this because several council districts you're going to see that number is up. There is not a specific pattern that we're seeing around the city. We don't know if it's just a fluctuation based on time, but there is not a specific pattern, a specific serial offender or anything like that going on throughout the city. The numbers tend to be better than 50% known parties. Those people are just as much a victim as anyone else. And so we have to investigate those crimes as well. But you see child molestation issues, you see domestic violence issues. And we're seeing a lot, and to get into, we're going to be putting some public service information out soon. We're seeing a lot of cases where people meet in a chat room or something online or meet through some type of dating app, and then when they meet up in person, an assault occurs. So we're going to try and put some safety information out to the public to try and put a dent in that because we're starting to see that a little bit. And while those fall into the stranger category of rapes because they don't really know that person, it's still an acquaintance. It's somebody that they met, somebody that they know, and they went to meet, and then something bad happened to them. And so we're going to try and put some information out to the public to try and help keep people safe. So we haven't seen a specific pattern, but you are going to see some districts where those numbers are up. Again, the percentages look worse than the raw numbers. If you look at District A, it's 25%. That's an increase in 4 over the first quarter of last year. That's 4, that's too many, but that's an increase in 4 incidents, but it's a 25% increase because it's a total of 20 for the district. Last year it was 16. So there's an increase there. Thankfully, it's not massive, but every single one of those crimes is important, and it's something we have to deal with. Looking at auto theft, go a little bit into that. You're going to see consistently across some districts, you're going to see auto theft numbers being up. One of the things that's happening is we may be a little bit of victim of success when we're dealing with catalytic converter thefts, because if you remember some of the previous times we were up here, we talked about theft numbers being up significantly, and those theft numbers were being driven heavily by catalytic converter thefts, burglaries of motor vehicles, guns being stolen from cars, things of that nature. That was what was driving those theft numbers. Well, you're going to see across the board that theft numbers are down significantly through legislative changes for catalytic converter thefts, making the penalties more severe, and the fact that the cost of the precious metals that are in those has come way down so that there's not as much reward for the risk. We're seeing an increase instead of them just stealing the whole car. So technology is playing a part in that. We're seeing Kias and Hyundais high on the list where they've never been before because the criminals have learned to use technology to steal those cars in some ways, and they're using technology to steal other makes and models as well. So that's something we're always struggling to keep up with. They're reprogramming their own keys. They're stealing these in ways very different than what it was when I was a young officer on the street when they just broke the window and broke the column and drove off with it. So technology is what they're using to drive those numbers. All right, next slide. District B, again, you see a slight increase in sexual assault numbers and an increase in auto theft. That's an increase in 5 over last year. One thing that is good news in District B is we did have, good point. Definitely, I'm talking about the bad news, and she's pointing out.
I was going to say, I appreciate that.
If you look at District A,
it would be helpful to focus on the good news.
Let me poke. Yeah, I wanted him to explain at the front end so we can get through the slides because everybody was going to see the sexual assaults and good or bad. You need to explain that, but I also want us to look at what's going on good and have a comprehensive report. So make sure that we go over the whole thing real quick and get slide through. Thank you.
That's all right. It. So to go back to District A, murders are down 43%. So to cover the good news as well as the bad, murder's down 43%, and overall violent crime is down 7%, and overall crime is down 6%. Now, next slide. One bit of good news here on the rape number is we did have a suspect that was arrested very recently that was responsible for more than one rape in this particular district. So that hopefully will put a dent in those numbers, and that's a good thing. But murders are down 27%. Again, overall violent crime is down 12%, and overall crime in the district is down 14%. Next slide, please. District C is one of the districts where we did not see an increase in rapes, but we did see an increase in auto thefts, just like we're seeing in a lot of places. But again, 13% overall decrease in violent crime and a 4% decrease overall in crime in general. Next slide, please. District D, I know Councilmember Shabazz is going to be very happy to see that there's a green across the board in the violent crime categories in District D. Every violent crime category showed a decrease, with a decrease in violent crime of 21%. We did see an increase in auto thefts, which again we're seeing in different places around the city, but there's an overall decrease in crime in District D of 15%. District E, Councilmember Martin, this is kind of an example of what I talked about with the percentages. You see some higher percentages up in the violent crime categories, and yet overall violent crime is down 28% in District E. You see an 18% increase in rapes. That's a total of 3 more than last year. You see a 2% increase in robbery, which is a total of 1 more than last year. You see a 78% decrease in murders, which is fantastic. It's 7 fewer than last year in that district. So an overall crime decrease of 17%. In District F, next slide, please. There you go. District F, we again see that slight increase in rapes. It's an increase in 3 over the previous year, but a 29% decrease in murders, an overall 30% decrease in violent crime, and an overall decrease in crime in the district of 21%. All right, next slide, please. District G, there we go. All right, Councilmember Huffman's district, again, we see a 75% decrease in homicides, which is good. We actually saw a 56% decrease in rapes in her district. That's a pretty significant drop, because we're talking about 15 cases different over last year to the negative side. Again, we saw the slight increase in auto theft, but we see a 10% decrease in overall violent crime and a 12% decrease in crime overall. Council District H, we saw a 53% increase in rapes here. Here was where the numbers were a little higher. We saw 10 in excess of last year for the same time period. We broke that down, and I looked at those, and they are heavily known parties, heavily domestic, child, adult predator who knows the child, people who knew each other. And then we did have some of those, like what we were talking about, where people met up with someone that they had just become acquainted with and then were victimized. But there wasn't a specific pattern that really jumped out as to why those numbers were higher. But again, we saw that 20% decrease in homicides, a 4% decrease in violent crime, and an overall 2% decrease in crime in the district. District I, Councilmember Gallegos, we saw a 17% decrease in homicides. We saw a 29% increase in the rapes. That was a count of 6. Again, we looked at those, broke them down, looked at the different cases and what the MO was, and there was not anything specific that really jumped out as a pattern. It was just an increase over the prior period. We saw that 20% increase in auto thefts again, but still had a 16% decrease in violent crime and a 4% decrease in overall crime for the district. Going to District J, Councilmember Pollard, we saw a 14% decrease in homicides, had a 12% decrease in rapes here. We see that 67% increase in kidnappings. If you remember last time we did this presentation, we were talking about kidnappings for almost every single district. Again, getting into that, kidnapping can be something as simple as you have a domestic violence case where the offender refuses to allow the other party to leave. They detain them. They do not allow them to leave the location. It gets added as a kidnapping. So it's not necessarily, kidnapping kind of brings to mind children being snatched, and it's more, you get a lot of child custody issues, you get domestic violence issues where people are detained. That's what you see. So it's an increase of 6, which is more than you want to see, but there wasn't a specific pattern. Again, there was a 14% decrease in violent crime and an overall 8% decrease in crime in general. And this is one of the few places where we saw a decrease in auto theft of 10% in that district. District K, we saw an increase in murders in this district. It was an increase of 1 over the previous year. any homicide is too many homicides, but we had a one count increase in incidents over last year, had a 30% increase in rapes. That's a count of 6. Again, there was no pattern, and then had the same increase we've been seeing in auto thefts. However, the positive information is still that 18% decrease in violent crime overall, and an overall decrease of 11% in crime for the district. And then we get back to get back to where we started. These are those four-month numbers for the city. The chief talked about the 28, now 27% decrease in murders. If you remember the past couple of years, the first quarter of the year for homicides was horrendous in our city. We were playing catch-up for the whole rest of the year. We would start the year bad in the month of January, and then we'd play catch-up the rest of the year to try and get back where we started. We have the benefit this year of starting off good, and we want to keep that going. The chief's always fond of saying summer is coming, but we would just encourage the public to keep doing what they're doing. We thank the residents of this city for their efforts to keep themselves and their neighbors safe, because without them, we could not do it. And we want to continue to see these numbers get better and better as months go by.
Thank you, Chief. Just want to keep our momentum here at the Houston Police Department, and I think that Mayor and Council should be proud. We don't fudge numbers. We tell the truth. And you look at the numbers and the truth speaks. People are coming together. We're safer than we were last year, and we're never satisfied. But one thing I'll ask, and we'll open up, please continue to pray for our men and women on the police department, not only our police department, our whole region. We don't talk about trauma that people see and they're exposed to, and even our emergency communicators, things that they're hearing out when they're dispatching calls to keep our city safe. So pray for them, and I ask that we pray for our victims of violence as well. But that completes our report. I'm really proud about it. I'll say summer is coming, but at the same time, I'm proud for this moment. But just like any good sporting game, you start strong, you finish strong, and I intend to finish strong with the support of a great mayor and a great city council. And I just want to thank y'all again for everything that y'all do for public safety and what y'all do for our city. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Councilman McCammon.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, Chief, to echo what you said, my heartfelt and sincerest appreciation and gratitude to HPD and all of our law enforcement partners. You all are on the front lines every single day. So we are sitting here 100% behind you, Mayor, whether it's through One Safe Houston funding or the other initiatives that you have led the charge on. We're up to, I think, over $70 million under One Safe Houston. But again, please carry the message back of our appreciation. It would be very helpful, and Melissa, you do an amazing job. I want everyone to know, I mean, it's a 1 to 2 person shop, looking at all of the data, and hopefully we're getting that RMS system in, new system in as quickly as possible that will help us. It would be helpful to include the 2021 numbers in those comparisons, because I'm looking at some of those and they're so much higher coming out of the pandemic. So to look at the change post-pandemic and where we are, that would be very helpful. For example, in 21 in District C, there were 35 murders. We're looking at this now way lower.
Let me just say on that note, Councilman McCammon, when you compare the homicides to 2021, 33 fewer murders at this point than in 2021.
Right. So having that we can share out gives us a broader picture of that trend, as well as including, I would recommend, total population counts. District C, per census data, represents 240,000 people. I would say it's probably closer to 250,000. So out of 40,000 on record, compared to what these numbers are, I give the example in District E, one of our safest districts, which is great, that 200% drop increase, as you pointed out, but it's a count of 2. So being able to show that population is very, very helpful. I wanted to also express my appreciation for the partnership with our Safe Storage campaign. The Lock It Up Safe, I think, is working. That message is being picked up by the media, and we have a long way to go with that. But we don't have a way. I noticed those auto theft and theft. We do not have a way right now. Well, first I'll ask, do we know what the number was last year for how many firearms were stolen out of vehicles?
I don't have it with me, but we'll get it. We'll get it to you. We'll get it to everyone. Yeah.
I do know that for the first quarter of the year, I don't have the number, but I did correspond with auto theft before we came in here, and for the first quarter of the year, those numbers are down. So for the first time in a long time, the numbers month over month were down slightly as far as firearms stolen from vehicles. So if we can keep that trend going, that'd be fantastic. I don't know what the year-to-date numbers look like, though, but I know month over month they were down for the last month.
Okay, that would be helpful. I think last year it was 2,400 reported, which is that's more than 11 a day being stolen out of vehicles. With the auto theft, is there something occurring right now as to why auto theft is higher? I've seen different things in the news about new technologies and things like that, but could you speak to that?
A lot of it is technology. There's technology that's made it easier for them to steal the cars in a way that makes it less obvious. A lot of these cars are actually leaving the state, leaving the country. They're being stolen for a purpose. We did see, we can only speculate if the difference and the decrease in a lot of those numbers as far as catalytic converter thefts and BMVs has resulted in some of those same individuals simply stealing the car as opposed to stealing parts of the vehicle. We just don't have a very specific thing to go on. We did just recently have rodeo and Final Four, which Final Four is kind of an extra add-on versus rodeo. Rodeo is there every year. So for first quarter of the year, we always have rodeo, which is always a spike in auto thefts and burglaries of motor vehicles around that region because, to be honest, the criminal element knows that there's a whole bunch of people coming in from out of town who don't understand how to lock their stuff up because they don't live here.
Right.
And so it's a prime target environment. We see a lot of firearms stolen, people coming in from out of town get things stolen out of their vehicles. But then the Final Four was an extra add-on event which contributed even further to that in that part of town, bringing in a lot of people from outside for an entire weekend, 3, 4, 5 day period. And we had a lot of extra people in, and that can drive those numbers up.
Great. And the rape numbers are concerning. I think one thing that's telling, regardless of what district, we see the same trends, right? We're seeing each of those numbers, by and large, where there's an increase. It's happening in every district, which goes to the point that this has to be a citywide approach and a holistic approach.
Can I say something real quick about that? I'm sorry, Mayor, because I think it's important. And Chief hit on it, but we want to educate. We're in a point in our society where dating is online. Yeah. You don't do it traditionally like somebody will introduce you to someone and say, hey, this is a good guy, this is a good girl. They're dating online, and then you're meeting somebody in private, and you don't really know them. And so we really have to put that educational piece out there on that, and I want to work with everybody. We've talked about it even with our PIO as early as last week. We want to partner up with that, and
Great.
I'm sorry.
No, and I was going to say, Mayor, I respectfully request that we do a presentation at Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee on the sexual assault trends that we are seeing and what we are doing when you all are ready for that information campaign. I think that's important to really talk about what's happening and broadcast that as loudly as possible.
Yeah, but I want us to be very, very careful because I think what they indicated is that there was no sort of connection. And in some districts, there was no rape occurring in some of the districts. So I want us to be very careful that we not over-highlight that and then downplay the good news, because I think that's important, because we are so caught up in this negative environment right now that it's like we don't want to hear good news. We just want to hear what's negative. And there's a lot of good here, but we can certainly have a conversation on that.
And all I'm saying is from an educational perspective, right? People post-pandemic want to get out more. People are dating, they're using these apps, so the education component, I think, is what I hope we can lift up further. Regarding the data collection, we do not know, related to violent crime, we don't have the capacity right now or capability to identify how many were with a firearm or how those firearms were obtained? Similarly, what was domestic violence related or not? Are we able to break those down?
We can break it down to you. We will get, there are some challenges with RMS, and, we're working on that. But, yeah, it's just take a lot of kind of footwork, and we'll get it.
And the domestic violence is easier because we do track that pretty standardly, as long as the officers indicate in the report that it was domestic violence. Use of a firearm, we can find sometimes the actual origin of the firearm is something that would be very difficult.
Okay, great. And two final questions. One, budget season is coming up. Is there anything that you want us to be aware of? I know we'll have our HPD presentation, but HPD is right? Public safety is the largest portion of our budget. Can you speak to that and the importance of that?
Yes, but I want to wait until the budget. We're going to have some meetings this week and also next week to make sure I prioritize with the team because things are tight. And everybody knows we over $1 billion on our budget. We want to be smart and responsible to ask for those things that we really need, and where the city, not only our department, is going to get the biggest bang for the buck. So I respectfully like to wait until our presentation.
No problem. And then lastly, Mayor, I think it would be very helpful to know how we are comparing to other cities. I know that Houston is Houston and we need to focus on Houston, but I think these numbers speak to how we are leading the way in the way that we are addressing violent crime and crime generally and public safety holistically. So if we're able to look at other Texas cities and just to know what those trends are. For example, if they're still trending higher than we are, it's helpful to know that with the caveat, Houston is Houston. We have different challenges. We have more mileage that officers have to cover than Chicago or New York. We have fewer officers. All of those things, yet we are still seeing phenomenal progress. One violent crime is too much, but we are trending in the right direction, and my appreciation for that.
Thank you. And what I can say to you in terms of homicides, we're better than Chicago, New York, Philadelphia. In fact, when you look at the whole number of cities, in terms of the number of fewer homicides, in this case 40, 42, we lead most of the cities in terms of when you look at the number of homicides that have dropped in comparison to 2022. I see those numbers on the comparison to other cities every week, and the numbers right here in the city of Houston I see every morning. And I do want to highlight we are comparing to 22 in these numbers, but even when we compare to 2021, we are trending better. So I think what's important to note is that this trend started after we instituted One Safe Houston, because at the end of the year in 2022, the city of Houston led every metropolitan region in the violent crime reduction throughout the entire country. And what we're seeing here is that trend continues to come down. And I think that's the key. Nobody's claiming mission accomplished. Certainly not doing that. But I do think it's important because I know when I tweeted out that we had 43 fewer homicides in comparison to last year, and we didn't have any homicides this weekend, people find it incredulous to believe. And then people say, well, why are you tweeting about no homicides this weekend as if you're celebrating? Nobody is celebrating. But it does appear that people want to hear the negative news and don't want to hear the good news. And if the only thing you're hearing is the negative news and you don't want to hear the good news, then you're not giving proper respect to the men and women in HPD who are working hard, law enforcement working hard, to the community, and especially to the community, to our citizens here who are working hard. So I just think we have to be, it's important to hear both sides, and then we just need to continue to work together. And look, there are a number of people in the queue. Councilmember Thomas. Come.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I want to talk that talk about District F. I know we were talking a lot of heavy talk, but I want to bring some good news on the West Side. So I just want to acknowledge the work that's been happening on the West Side, and that 21%. And although it's for the first quarter, it's meaningful. But I want to bring your attention. I know we've talked offline about ShotSpotter. That's another tool that we've used, and also the benefits of LPR cameras. On the west side, we were the first to have them implemented. I think myself, other colleagues in J and A and G. So can you talk about some of those successes and how that's showing up in the trends of our 21% decrease overall on the west side? Thank you much.
Proud council member. So technology, if it's shot spotter, if it's license plates reader, if it's flock, we need more. It helps whenever you can put technology out here. And I just want to thank each and every one of the council members who donate funds. But we're going to have a citywide campaign of businesses, private individuals, everyone. I want this city to be a city, and I've said it before, I don't know if we call it Houston Eye, Houston Watch, whatever we call it. Let's get that technology up and rolling. The government, the city government cannot fund it alone. Your council pockets can't fund it alone. It has to be a coordinated, comprehensive effort because I want criminals to know you do something in the city, somebody's watching you, and we can go back to that footage. If it's a license plate reader, if it's a recorded camera, whatever it is, to make sure that we capture. And then overall arching, it's a deterrent. People know you come to this city, we're watching you, okay? So thank you for your support.
Councilmember Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you, Chief, and thank you to the command staff and HPD civilian employees. Thank you. And also, of course, HPD police officers. I also want to thank, due to the fact that in District I, violent crime is down 16%. I want to thank the East Side Division, South Central, Southeast, Downtown, and the Northeast for doing an outstanding job in bringing violent crime down in District I. I know that it was mentioned in regards to HPD only having 5,100 officers, and I mentioned that at every opportunity I get in regards to residents that are wanting to know, what's going on here, what's going on there regarding HPD, and explain to them that we have 5,100 officers serving 645 square miles. And then when I tell them that 5,100 officers is divided amongst 3 shifts, and they're like, wow. So then they realize, the resources that we have with HPD, and that y'all are doing, more than best than you can do with what you have. I was at an event this week, and someone raised a hand and wanted to know why we defunded the police. I know the media is here, and like the mayor has stated, it's important that we put out the truth. We did not defund the police. As a matter of fact, we did increase the sign-on bonus to $10,000, which has helped to go out to other cities to recruit good qualified cadets. I know attending the graduation classes at HPD, when they call out the names to hear individuals from other cities that have actually joined HPD. I'm sure we have other cities here in the city of Houston that are trying to take good qualified cadets from us to their cities. But now with a $10,000 sign-on bonus, now we're able and we're competitive to keep those that are here in Houston and hopefully get others from other cities as well. So again, thank you so much for everything that y'all do. Y'all are doing an outstanding job.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. And it was just text to me, and this goes, Councilmember came into what you asked about. Of the 27 major cities in the report, comparing to other cities, Houston has had the largest decrease in the number of homicide victims by far. Okay. Councilmember Cisneros.
Thank you, Mayor. I like celebrating good news, and I'm glad to see overall in the whole city that there's a lot of good news. There's not so much to celebrate in District H. We are at the bottom of the numbers for rape. We're at the bottom for the numbers of auto thefts. So the change in rapes, the number this year went up by 10. So we are 53% increase. The number for auto thefts went up by 128 stolen cars. We are up 39%. So those numbers give us an overall, a nonviolent crime decrease of 1%. That's not that much to celebrate. And in violent crime, it gives us a 4% decrease. That's not enough to really have a celebration either. So I hope you will help me, to do what we can to prevent crime. I've already sent a note to my staff. I want to see, what we can do with working through the mayor's office of domestic violence, to see what resources, what advice, guidance we can give to our constituents of how to prevent, the domestic crimes, and I know that you said there's not patterns. If there's you mentioned several things: predators who knew the children, people that live together, people that are meeting online. I want to attack all of those things and prevent that from, to the best we can, from happening at all. And then the same thing, I don't know as much, what do we do to help people protect their vehicles from being stolen? And, a 39% increase in that is just not okay. And I know less about what to do about that. So, please help me. We want the same good numbers that other districts are seeing.
We're looking forward to working with you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
And Councilwoman, no one is celebrating. The only thing we're doing is reporting what the numbers are, but no one is celebrating. If there's only one crime in the city, it's one crime too many. But I do think it's important to note that murders in District H, homicides is down by 20%.
There were two fewer murders.
Well, I understand. I understand. But robbery is down 13%, aggravated assault is down 2%, kidnapping is down 13%, and human trafficking is at 0. So I do understand. If it's one too many, if it's one too many people breaking in the cars, that's one too many. I got that.
And the number for human trafficking is incorrect because it actually shows an increase of 2% and it shows 0%. So that's really not accurate. That's wrong.
Right. This is just the first quarter report for the district. Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor and Chief, and all your team. I just want to say the trends are going in the right direction. So without any further, I just want to thank you for all the hard work that's going on. You'll recall that about 4 months ago when we were here in January, I was a statistic with my truck just having been stolen, and I'm proud to say that that is not on this chart right now because your force helped get that truck back, and there was some truly exemplary law enforcement going on there. So I want to salute your team for that. From the investigations, the camera work that you've talked about, they knew where my truck was the day before. They knew that my Christmas tree was going to be recycled because it was sticking out of the back of the truck. It was pretty impressive, the level to which you all can track and trace and understand. So again, the numbers in that one category do appear to be up, and there's some things that we all need to do. Agree with our colleagues who want to help suggest ways to avoid that. And Chief, you and I have talked about that a little bit already. So I do want to follow up with you on some statistics. I think my colleague just pointed out one small clerical error here, and we do want to follow up with you on that, make sure all of our numbers are scrubbed exactly correct. So I'll be following up with a letter to you and the mayor. But thanks to everyone, civilian, officers, special investigators. The work is paying off.
Thank you very much, and we need to keep a good eye on your truck. We don't want any repeats, okay?
Excellent police work. Thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor Pro Tem Kester-Tatum.
Thank you, Mayor, and to Chief and the entire HPD team. We appreciate the diligence and the hard work that you are doing in our communities. Very happy to see that the violent crime in District K specifically is down 18% for this first quarter. But what I wanted to say, Chief, is really to encourage constituents to continue to attend those PIP meetings. Because monthly we are discussing our crime stats, what we can do better as a community, how to not be victimized in the city of Houston, and we have found that to be extremely helpful. The teams that are bringing these PIP meetings to our communities are doing a phenomenal job. The ability to immediately discuss with the officers that are working in your community, get to know the officers that are working in your community, is a tremendous benefit for our community. So I'm hoping that residents will see that as a continued benefit and continue to attend those PIP meetings in our districts. And I see the correlation of the advice. We've had PIP meetings where officers actually go out in the parking lot and look in people's cars and say, license plate number so-and-so, you would be victimized because I see grocery bags or I see a shopping bag, and they give report cards. Our management districts are giving report cards to people in the parking lot just to explain to them how not to be victimized. And encouraging people to park their cars in their garages. Take that stuff out and not store all the things you don't use in your garage, and put your valuable car in your garage to prevent being victimized with auto theft. So I find these PIP meetings to be highly valuable. I want to thank you for those. That engagement is critical. And I think in addition to ShotSpotter and all the things that we've done individually, has collectively brought us to be able to look at these downward trends, especially in our violent crime. So kudos. We'll continue to support our efforts in the city of Houston, but wanted to just thank you for that intimate engagement in our individual communities.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kubash.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thank you for finding my grandson's truck after it was stolen. You know, you found it within 48 hours. You really, I don't know how you did that, but it didn't have a GPS locator on it, but I would have thought it would as quick as you found it. You know, I'm sure that we were on alert from this murderer up in San Jacinto County, and my son, one of my sons, and his wife and children live not far from there in Cleveland, and it was very disturbing. And when I begin to see the massive search, I begin to think of our police officers and the danger they're in when they're hunting them for a man that has taken the lives of 5 people. And I'm amazed that we caught him without any other loss of life. Thank God for that. And we prayed for those officers and all of you, because we didn't know if it was going to come to Houston or not. But who knows? I just pray for that family and all of those that have lost their lives. One of my concerns is that we've talked about what's been reported. Your report is basically a report on what's been reported, and it's not on how many arrests, how many convictions, and when you look at convictions on murders, of course it could take many years to digest all those numbers, because trials could go on for 10 years. I mean, it could. So my feeling is that we have to do something. During COVID, we closed our places of worship, our churches, our synagogues, our mosques, and that's the standard against evil. And yet crime rose and spiked. And at the same time, the violent habitual offenders were being released by our judges on low or no bonds, and as a result, the murder rate spiked. And I'm just concerned that our city, even though I'm thankful for the numbers looking better, being better, it's just that I want to be able to communicate to those who've lost loved ones, because if you've been a victim of crime, these numbers mean nothing to you, because you are the number, and there's a lot of people that are hurt. Every time there's somebody killed or violated in a violent crime, there's a whole lot of victims. There's victims for the perpetrator's family. There's a victim from all of society. We're all victimized by it, and it just creates such an evil presence. And you, police officers, are the standard that we have to protect us and against these evil people. God bless you. Thank you for your service, Chief. You've always taken my calls. I appreciate you. And the mayor made a good choice when he picked you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, and I won't belabor the point, but I was watching a Black Father's Instagram video, and they were talking about artificial intelligence. So I know as we integrate technology into being efficient and effective, I just want us to be sensitive. One of the things he said in the video was that you can take my voice and admit to a crime, and then people will say it's me. Because the technology is so sophisticated, the spam we receive is so sophisticated. And so as we put those measures in place as a consideration for you and your team, however y'all choose to deploy technology, to be sensitive to that.
Yes.
Because they're doing all types of things with AI, and we want to make sure that we are not doing harm unnecessarily with that. So I just wanted to add that on the record.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Plummer.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I just wanted to congratulate you. This is good. We're moving in the right direction. And I do believe what you said before is really critical. We all play a part in this. Everyone does. And so if we all do our part the right way, then I know that we'll continue to see a downward trend in everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes, thank you, Chief, and thank you, Chief Martin. Appreciate the men and women of HPD each and every day. As we prepare for budget season, I want you to think about this for a little bit. You don't need to give me an answer, but is there one thing that is not in your present budget that you could use that could prevent crime and additional crime in the city? Whether it's additional flock cameras, shot spotters, things like that. As we go into budget, we're always looking for ideas and concepts, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you that question. More importantly, great numbers. The two outliers I look at is rape that was up in 7 out of 11 council districts, and I thought the further away we moved from COVID, the less would have domestic violence and rape, even if those things don't go hand in hand. And the second component was 9 out of 11 districts is auto theft. So while a great report and 95% of it is good, those two outliers caught my attention. The other day, I went to go run down Buffalo Bayou, and there's a street that I park on, and there's nothing but glass on that street. I forgot the name of the street, and I was asking somebody about it, and he said, that's because every day people park there, and when they go run, they get their windows smashed. And I'm like, why can't we have someone sitting out there a little bit or passing around there more often? So a couple of questions within that short dissertation.
So with regards to the burglary of motor vehicles, we simply have to help people, and they got to follow through. You got to help us to help you. You can't get out and go jog and you leave a computer in the car, if you leave a bag in the car, if you leave a purse in the car. And we're responsible for reducing crime, and I don't step aside on that. But you got to help us, and when we got to educate people, and when we do, because I know everybody's heard it, but when our officers go to make the report, and ma'am, what did you leave in the car? Oh, officer, I left my purse in there. I left that bag in there. We can't do it. And another thing, Councilwoman, you brought it up. We got to encourage people to use your garage, okay? There's a lot of people in Houston that need things. I came up needing a lot of help without a lot of resources. Clean some of that stuff out of your garage. Give it to somebody if it's a little bit of a value. Take your car and put it in the garage, the people who have garages, okay? That'll help us. So common sense things, and I'm always here to listen, and we need to continue to work together. But we're going in the right direction, and it's good news today. But like Councilwoman said over there, we got a lot of work to do. One victim of violent crime is too many. And as we celebrate, they're always in our prayers and in our thoughts, and we're going to continue to work together.
Then we're going to just take a few more, because I promised them I would have them out of here to get over to the prayer service. Councilmember Pollard.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning to everyone. Thank you both for the presentation. This is a sigh of relief for me, looking at the numbers in District J. I think this is one of the first times, Mayor, that I've seen our numbers this low, and it's a testament to all the hard work of the community and the law enforcement personnel, but of some of the creative ideas that we've been coming at. Whenever you all approach our office with ideas about technology or initiatives that you believe would help, whether it's going to the apartment complexes and having booths set up out there, you know, sometimes you think, is any of this even working, right? Is this engagement working? Are these tools that we're putting in place working? Well, these numbers kind of speak for themselves. And so to have every single district to be down for the first quarter is something to be highlighted. There may be a few blips on here that talk about the increases, but the decreases are significant. And to be in every single district is something that to be acknowledged. And for District J to have these numbers across the board, violent crime down 14%, that's huge. So I want to thank you all in the entire department, and I look forward to continuing on this trend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaneman.
Yes, sorry, Mayor, really quickly, because we started talking about car break-ins, and Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, right, when cars are lining streets. Do you all see, or could you get back to us on when you have more street parking? Residents parking on streets, again, not using garages and things like that, if that creates more of a risk?
Yeah, whenever there's more an opportunity for people who don't want to work, want to victimize people, there's going to be an increase of crime, but we simply have to continue to educate. And we also have to put officers where we need to put them. It's always a challenge, but I don't back down from that responsibility. But overall, burglary of motor vehicles, I'm going to tell you, the great majority of them are preventable. They really are. If everybody does a better job of not leaving valuables in a car. And when I say valuables, in a criminal's mind, you got to think like they think. It may not be nothing in this sports bag but some dirty tennis shoes that's worth $5. But if you leave that bag there, they're going to break the window, and it still goes against us as a theft. So we just got to work together.
I appreciate it. And again, that we focused a lot on the wins, and I think we should be doing that. And I think, though, this is also a win for law enforcement, for the city, but for residents as well, and that we need the buy-in from residents. If you see something, say something, reporting, education, keeping things out of cars, all of that. So I think also the message, you know, to be carried away, whether it's from us or the media, is we need everybody's buy-in into this and residents doing their part as well. But again, I want to thank you all for the flexibility, the innovation that you are bringing, whether it's, you know, me working with Chief Satterwhite to start getting going on Lock It Up Safe, and then the department carrying that, whether it's new technology, all of the things y'all aren't afraid to try. Some things work, some things don't, but it is working. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. And the final is Councilmember Plummer.
Thank you, Mayor Turner. Last comment. You know how active I am in terms of apartments. And so anything that I can do, I mean, my dream, right, is to get every single apartment complex Blue Star rated. I mean, that would be amazing. And I know that it contributes to crime. I know we don't have a lot of data, but clearly we understand that it does. So anything that my office can do to assist for apartment complexes to decrease crime, please let me know. And I really look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chief Finnan, let me thank you. Assistant Chief Martin, the entire command team, the roughly 5,200 police officers out there. I mean, thank you. But if we stop there, that would miss. So I want to thank the people that live in all of these districts, all of the people, the parents, the kids, community leaders, activists, because it takes all of us working together in order to achieve the desired result. These numbers are just snapshots, and it helps everybody to focus on what we need to address. And where you see the red, those areas that we need to address, as we can continue to address those areas where it's going down. But what I want to emphasize is what we are doing is working. And bear in mind, we're at the lower end because we're impacted by what happens at the federal level. We're impacted by what happens at the state level, and it all flows down. The other thing is that when we are arresting, and just like I saw a story the other night, and people are carrying machine guns and all of that other stuff, judges have to keep them there longer. You can't put them back on the street. Okay, that works against everybody. So it takes the whole ecosystem working together. But what we are doing is working. What I would say to people out in the world, if you have other ideas on what we can do, please let us know. If you've got other ideas on how we can make it better, let us know. But what we don't need is that people keep talking about crime, and they offer no solutions, because that just becomes rhetoric. But One Safe Houston, I will say One Safe Houston is working, and it's now been in effect for more than 1 year, and the numbers are reflective, but we still have a lot of work to do. So thank you all so very much. I'm not going to hold you any longer.
Thank you
Appreciate your
very
time.
much. I'm going to go get some prayer. We're going to pray for y'all as well. Thank you.
Prayer works.